I'm Amanda.
And I'm Mike. And
this is Saturday Morning Cereal.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Saturday Morning Cereal Podcast. My name is Mike. I'm here with Amanda. Today we are here to talk about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Amanda, tell us about the cast.
Well, first of all, welcome to our guest, Sam. Do you want to go ahead and plug your podcast? You're also a fellow podcaster, and your social medias. Where can we find you?
You can find me across all social media platforms under the Sam Boogie, TheSamBoogie. The podcast I am a co-host of is Your Favorite Marks with my good friend Brittany. You can find us on Instagram at YFM_podcast and on Twitter at Your Fave FAVE Marks.
And tell us about your podcast, Sam.
With that, my friend and I, we share a love for music and pro wrestling, where we kind of clash the two there, and talk about things currently in pro wrestling, past stuff as well too, and whatever music is catching our ear currently as well.
Oh, that's probably my favorite thing about wrestling is the introduction and the music. So that's great. You combine them.
Yes.
All right, Amanda, tell us who is in this movie. Who's this cast?
Oh man! So first of all, is Letitia Wright. I loved her in this movie, but I loved her in the first movie and throughout the whole entire Thanos adventure. So to see her front and center in this movie, which we will touch upon here in a minute, oh my gosh, she was amazing. Also, there is going to be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure you click away, because I know it just came out, but there's just a lot to cover because the movie was it was great. So, but again, more to come on that. Also, we have Lupita Nyong'o, and guys, you know me, I am not good with names at all, and but she played Nakaya. Again, A+ performance. We have Denai as Okoye. Oh my gosh, I just love this whole cast, you guys. Like, they just brought their A game to this whole entire movie. Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, and her freaking biceps. Like, come on.
And then we have Tanaku
Hirata.
as Namor or Namar, the villain of the story, or anti-hero, we could call him. And we have Martin Freeman returning as Everett Ross, and we are introducing Dominique Thorne as Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. So, Sam, Black Panther is obviously a pinnacle film in the Black community, and now that he's gone, the actor's gone, Chadwick Boseman has passed on. What has that meant for the Black community and the Marvel Universe in general for you?
I mean, speaking for the Black community, like, it really took a toll on us, because that was like, aside from Blade, everyone forgets about Blade as like the anti-hero of Marvel, but Black Panther was kind of like the first like front and center Black superhero for us. That actually got like a feature film and got like some headway within Marvel. Obviously, I think his first appearance was Civil War, right?
Yes.
And like that little sneak peek, like that kind of got us hyped for the movie. And for us, it's kind of like an event. Like, I know a lot of people showed up in like traditional African garb, some
we're wearing white
kente cloths, or correct. I mean, no, I did not wear all white. I refused to wear all white to movie theater, but I definitely rock my Black Panther gear to the movie though. But yeah, it's definitely a big staple in our community and our culture, and it just, I think we as a people definitely turned out for this.
Yeah, and what's great, well, you mentioned Blade, but Blade for me, it doesn't sound like it captured like the experience of being Black. Like, there was no mention of like racism and prejudice and the Black experience.
Right, because it didn't touch on like the cultural topics, and
Yes.
especially with like today's climate and culture, like Black Panther definitely stood on a lot of those points and a lot of those topics that a lot of other franchises or companies wouldn't care to embrace. But I do appreciate that Black Panther franchise and Marvel in general just like embracing that and taking that role head on.
Yes, they do. I really do appreciate like just the exoticness of this movie. Like Wakanda is this exotic place, and how do they top it from like the first movie? Is they bring in uh, Namor and they bring in that whole city of Tanakh, and that for me was
Right.
a a big appeal. Like I don't know if you've seen Aquaman, but like the difference in the underwater scenes is just incomparable. Like it looks so much
I
better.
definitely agree with you there. Like it definitely tied into a lot of like traditional Mexican culture. I think they were loosely based around like Yucatan, if I remember correctly. Sorry, I just seen the movie like an hour ago, so everything's still processing kind of. But yeah, like they definitely tied into a lot of the culture there as well too, and I think that was really impactful. Just not for minorities in general, but just showing like the vast differences between like superheroes and like the backgrounds of them all as well too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really appreciated the special effects in this film, and I feel like they just keep getting better and better. The water in this movie, like the underwater sequences, were phenomenal, and it rightly so gave me anxiety. I have like this fear of drowning and all that. So
You too. I share that same thing.
yeah,
It's
so
like
like the part where
the deep blue sea scares me.
yeah, so but still, it's just interesting because the thought crossed into my head. Wouldn't it be cool to be like Nakaya and just be able to jump in this underwater speeder and just go wherever underwater and be 100% confident in that device that you won't drown or get lost at sea? Like, it was neat, but yet anxiety inducing for me.
I mean, not even that. Just like understanding like the difference in water pressure as you go deeper
Yes.
into like the ocean, and like pretty much vibranium can handle all of that, which is like the cool the cool thing about it. Because like no matter what, they just had the technology to get literally anywhere they want to on the planet Earth.
Yes.
it was so cool that like Namor specifically said like what would happen to your body at those pressures. Like you know your lungs would collapse, your blood would just explode. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Your bones would shatter from depression.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
we have suits also.
yes.
You could feel it. Like, and then, yeah, the suit that Shuri was wearing during that whole thing, I was like, oh man, that's just too much bulk.
Yes, I've been
Oh yeah, and then moving around at that speed too. It was like it was a lot of weird. It was cool to see like their civilization, but just getting from A to B, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, this bulky suit isn't like really equipped for this.
I've been underwater for an hour scuba diving before, and this whole movie with these underwater sequences just gave me such anxiety because
Yeah.
yeah, the darkness and then like all of the animals in the water, it was great. Uh, like the architecture underneath the water,
Yeah.
the giant like sun on top of the pyramid esque structure, it was also cool.
Yeah. And so, like, when it gives you anxiety like that, it's a job well done on the special effects team,
Yes,
just because it was so real.
probably a lot of practical effects too. I imagine a lot of stunt work and
Hmm.
swimming went into this. And
Yeah.
I actually read in IMDb that the actor playing Namor had never swam before. Like he doesn't know how to swim.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he had to learn for the. I think he had to learn, or he just learned. But like I remember reading that as well too. Like his first big feature film was like, oh, you got to be underwater for like half the movie though.
Oh, man.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So do you prefer how they handled this situation with Shuri taking on the mantle, or would you have preferred like a different character taking on the mantle, or would you have preferred like a recasting of T'Challa?
No, I think they did it justice because there is a storyline in the Marvel universe where Shuri does take the helm of the Black Panther, and much like Amanda was saying earlier, like it was cool to see her development as a character, um, especially in this movie, given everything we know from her previous appearances in the Marvel universe, and a lot was thrown at her this movie, and she had to handle a lot at that point in time. Obviously, not all of it was handled well, but end of the day, like she remembered who she was and what her people represented and what everything stood for. So I think that character arc and that character development really, really gave us insight to her, and I think it did it justice. from opening the scene with the funeral for T'Challa. Um, Very emotional scene. Like I definitely shed a thug tear a couple times throughout the movie, but
Me too.
it it definitely encapsulated like the story arc, and I think it was a job well done. I think it was a great story told throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, it was great that they did that because Chadwick Boseman passed away, and it was a very private event, and we kind of all found out at the same time. And this was kind of like the way that we all kind of grieved him together.
Yeah.
Like these scenes in these movies were there for us. Like we were able to accept his passing, and I couldn't imagine like the crew members having to film like a fake funeral for a fake character that was played by like a real friend of yours, or even practically like a hero. Like props to them
Right,
for
because
handling it so
cause I
well.
definitely wouldn't be surprised if like any of them broke down during that scene.
Oh
Like
yeah,
just like, cause even in theater, like I kind of looked around, people were like wiping their eyes and kind of sniffling throughout the theater. I'm like, people are really like impacted by
Yeah,
this.
and one thing about Letitia as Suri, she is so passionate about her character and the culture surrounding her character. I she and like you said too, the character arc of Suri, how she kind of was T'Challa's right hand man in the first movie, but she was also kind of like a comedic relief a little bit too, like cracking some jokes. And then we see her battling Thanos, but this movie really shown a different side of her, of mourning and then rage, vengeance, and then like acceptance and just trying to find herself. And she's been stripped of everything in this movie, her brother and then her mother, which was a complete shock to me. I didn't know they were going to kill the queen like that. Um, but yeah, she just so good. And it was interesting. Mike doesn't watch trailers because he doesn't like to be spoiled. Like you can literally pick apart a movie within a trailer. Um,
Yeah, Mike and I discussed this when we worked together. Like Mike would never watch a trailer
yeah,
for anything.
yep,
Like, wait for the trailer for social. He's like, no, I haven't watched it yet.
yep,
He's like, okay, then I keep my thoughts to myself. It's
right,
cool.
yeah.
right, right.
I watch a movie and I watch a movie trailer and I'll just like piece it together in my mind, or even within a couple minutes of watching a movie, I'll just be like, oh, this is how it's gonna end, and then
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's true, and I just kind of have to turn that part off when I watch trailers now inside of theaters, and when I try to watch movies, I try to just sit and enjoy it in the moment.
Yeah, but anyway, so like the second trailer they dropped like a week or two before the movie came out here heavily implied that Shuri was going to be the Black Panther. Right after that
Hmm.
trailer was dropped, they dropped a poster of her that looked just like, someone to be a leader. So I knew she was going to be the next Black Panther. I know, Mike, you had like a lot of theories of who was going to be the Black Panther.
Yes.
So I wasn't shocked, but I was excited because I was so excited just to see her just step up into this leadership role. Just coming from being a backup background character to this like strong female lead. It was just
Yes.
so great. Mike, who did you think was going to be the Black Panthers?
I had this huge theory that at the end of the movie, all of the Wakandans would have taken the heart-shaped herb, and they would have all put on the Black Panther armor and like stood up against Namor all together at once. And then my other second theory was that Angela Bassett was going to be the Black Panther, but that kind of washed
That would
away.
have been dope.
Literally.
That washed away.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
No pun intended there, Mike.
No, no pun intended.
uh,
I do want to shout out
I
too Okoye. Like I literally thought Okoye would have been a Black Panther. I was because Mike, you brought up saying there could be more than one Black Panther in this movie. And I thought it could have been Shuri, but then Okoye too. And I loved Denai's performance as Okoye, just in every single movie she has appeared in. She is just so great, so funny, so quippy, but she maintains integrity.
And they're not like snarky clips. They're straight up like jugular, go for the throat, like
Hmm.
personal attacks. Like,
Oh, I definitely loved her character, and I loved the little beef she had with the warrior from Namor's
yeah,
tribe. Like they kept running it back. Like that was dope to me. But much to my, I thought that was going to be like multiple Black Panthers as well too. I always thought it would be Zuri, inevitably. But I also thought Nakia probably could have gotten it, or Koye, especially after given what happened once she lost Zuri. and everything. So it was kind of, I thought it was kind of setting up for that, but
Yeah.
it still worked out for her in the end, and she got to get some new gear per se.
Yes, she is like the smartest person in Wakanda, and now she's like the most physically fit. Like Namor said, she's the most powerful person on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about Namor, and I saw a lot of similarities between Namor and between Killmonger. And Killmonger was this person who wanted to uplift struggling minorities and give them weapons to fight against their oppressors. And then Namor was this guy who just came up to the surface and just saw like what he had been up to for a couple hundred years maybe, and was like, "Yeah, you should all just go. You should all just burn." And I kind of understood it. I get
Mm-hmm.
it. We're just humanity in general is in a bad place. Sam, do you agree with Namor or Killmonger in any of their views?
Yeah, in both movies, I didn't really view them either as villains, more so anti-heroes because they had a cause to fight. Namor just wanted to protect his people because much like in real life, the Americans are greedy people. They try to get their hands on everything,
Yes.
and I love the opening scene when Queen Ramonda pretty much read the council their rights about trying to like steal from their outreach center, and like everybody was pretty much a trap for the I think it was the French representative. Like she kind of got caught up, but back to Namor though, it definitely didn't feel like villainous. Like he just wanted to protect his people, especially given once we learn how he came to be and what happened with his mother and his people in general. Like the colonizers came and gave their people smallpox and other diseases that they weren't equipped to handle, and they had to figure out a way to make it to pretty much make it as a civilization, and then ended up I guess converting or becoming a part of the water, which is still kind of weird, but it was definitely an interesting take on it, though.
And not only is he part of this water community, he's also half human, and that human half is a mutant. I tell you, I could have gone without these wings on these feet. They looked
Yeah, I wish they would have done something different. I mean, it was cool, like a cool concept. It was like because especially when like we first saw him in the movie, where it was like, on the boat scene where he kind of threw the helicopter down. I was wondering, I'm like, hey, how is he in the air? I'm like, hey, can he fly? And then you saw the wings. I'm like, oh, that's what's keeping him up in the air.
yeah,
It was kind of, it wasn't like a letdown, but it was like, oh, that's
they were
cool.
like
But
pigeon-sized
once,
wings.
right, and then once you saw him in action, it's like, oh, he's really fast with these things. So, so
Yeah,
One
it,
thing about too his people being blue, after seeing an Avatar, the new Avatar movie trailer before the film, and then we go
right,
right
it was definitely confusing.
right, and then we go right into like blue people. I was like, I didn't know this was Avatar. I
Yeah,
felt like
right.
they
Like
could
if you were paying attention,
have, yeah,
you definitely could have got like confused for a moment.
right.
and then we've got, of course, another movie about underwater people coming up called The Little Mermaid as well. So
Oh
Disney's
yeah.
just triple dipping themselves in the ocean of aquatic characters here. But I could have gone without the aquatic people being blue,
Yeah.
but it did make them very menacing. Because every time they were on
It did,
screen, I was like, "Oh man, what are they gonna do?" They were just so like scary to me.
And then when they just
right?
started
Because
popping out of the water and singing and their voices were just getting louder and louder, and then you realize what kind of attack that is with
right,
oh man.
it's so next level genius.
Yeah, it
It's like,
was
oh, this
great.
is
Yeah, every single time it was like like when the Romans were first trying to conquer the world, they were out on these like ships, and they weren't the best sailors, and they're
Mm,
like, "Well, we fight people on land. We have this great infantry," and then they developed this device that basically just slams a bridge onto the other boat, and they just walk across, and like,
mhm.
okay, now it's a battle of cavalries. We can stab you with our spear now, and that's basically what
right.
that's basically what these aquatic people from Tanakh did. It was like, okay, just come in the ocean. We'll get you. We'll get you down here. This is where we're strong. This is where we're at our best. Yeah, very smart.
Mhm.
So, how do you feel about Riri's inclusion in this movie? Are you expecting Ironheart to be a sequel? or a prequel? Do you want to see more of her? And how about her being from Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
All of that great
so
Chicago
so
Bulls
so
representation.
all things that you hit on were like perfect for me. The fact that she was this next level genius kid from the hood essentially, and I love the fact that she rolled up on the MIT kid like, hey, you didn't Venmo me my money yesterday, and then told him yesterday's price is not today. Like that matters. Like everything seemed to be authentic with her and how she delivered the role. I am very excited for Ironheart and more to come from her. I don't know if we'll get a movie. I'd be cool if they gave her like another Disney series to kind
Yes.
of like fill in the gaps between movies, but because like I don't know if she has like the storyline to hold a movie on her own without anyone else getting involved. But I think she did a really good job as the character Riri, and love the old school muscle car. That's one of my favorite things at heart, and I love the fact that she's from Chicago and she shouted that out towards the end of the movie. Like
Yeah.
everything about her character, like made me smile and made me happy. I feel it was done justice.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed her too, and I really liked her interactions with Shuri.
Yeah, Sherry kind of met her match, like an
Yes.
equal. It was great. And I like how
I
they,
like I like their relationship as well too, and I would hope that like expands more into like a mentorship role. As brilliant as Zuri is, I feel like she could help Riri along with a lot more of her gadgets. And
yeah,
who wouldn't want to see like an Ironheart with like vibranium technology with it?
Yeah.
I think that's
Like
what we got in this
that's next
movie.
level. Definitely for sure. But I'm sure like this because there's always like different variations of like the Iron
Yeah.
Man suit.
She
So
just wasn't able to keep the suit. She had to give it back.
Yeah.
of course, which left the door open for like more that we could do with that. So
Mhm.
I'm definitely looking forward if we can get
I
that
could
going.
definitely see Shuri popping into Ironheart a little bit. Like, hey, you're gonna need this suit.
I don't know.
We'll
I would
see.
like to see kind of Riri on her own again. I really was a big fan of that, like almost like aliens forklift type suit that she was flying around
Mm-hmm.
in, with like the openness of it, and like the fact that she couldn't go too high in the air without like depending on oxygen. Like that was cool. Like, the indestructible suit of vibranium flying around, I wasn't too much of a fan of that because it's like she wasn't very much in danger or peril at all in the movie when she had that suit.
Yeah, I think with that like there was kind of a fast development because like she got her suit kind of fast, but obviously she needed it within this movie. So I would have loved to see like if they kind of develop versions of her suit along the way. But um speaking going back to like when we first saw her suit and she had to go take out I think the stealth drone or the scout drone,
Yes.
like just watching her calculate how far she has to go and where she needs to be when she gets that high in the air. It was like so cool. And she's like, okay, I need to be right here, and then I'll be it's right there, and then shot it out the sky, and then just passed out. It was like, okay, way to be a hero. First like 15 minutes in the movie.
Yeah, it was a great callback to the first Iron Man movie when he was fighting Killmonger. No, not Killmonger, Ironmonger in the air
Mm-hmm.
and they were both fighting off that ice.
Right. He said, how'd you fix the freezing dish? She's like, what do you mean the freezing dish?
So, a little bit of a tie into Thunderbolts, I'm presuming, coming up with Val being kind of again getting a big role in this movie as kind of an antagonist and I guess, a devil's advocate of just the American government and kind of wanting to just saying, hey, America should have all the vibranium. So, do you think this will be a plot point in Thunderbolts, or do you think that this was just a one-time event for her?
No, I think she's a staple because we've seen her character in what the Falcon Winter Soldier series and other series. So I think like her character is kind of going to be poking around or popping up here and there, depending on what. But as much as I love Julia Louis Dreyfus, they really made me hate her as a person in this movie. I was like, oh my
I,
gosh,
I just wanted to say,
why is she so mean?
yeah. I just was like, I turned to Mike. I'm like, why is Wakanda all wet, Todd?
Yes, Elaine, and she was in Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, I think her going after vibranium, it makes sense because she's gonna have all these thunderbolts. She's gonna need to keep them in line, and she's gonna need kind of a weapon to protect herself. So I assume she's gonna get something from Wakanda.
And too, I just really want to say how much I love when the Wakandans go to like America or just outside of Wakanda, like Shuri and Okoye, like in, was it Boston?
Yes.
And that whole
Hmm.
interaction with the American people, like how they're just like, you guys are pathetic compared to us. We're high and mighty, and I love it.
Like you don't even know like how much power we got. Like, and
Hmm.
especially when she said, "You bought the spear here." Yes, I brought the spear.
Yes, yes.
She-
And Queen Ramonda, how it was like after the funeral and all that, and then she just like walks into the General Assembly, just boss lady.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
mean, she was, for me, I mean, Letitia Wright was obviously like the most standout, Denai, Lupita, but Angela Bassett too. Yes, like she just was so good in this role. I just wanted to bow to her every time she appeared on the screen.
We don't do that here.
For
Yeah.
real. Yeah. Like her, I guess her monologue when she was in the chambers and she was just like, "Have I not?" Oh, when she, I guess took away the knives,
Mhm.
rank or whatever. She's like, "Have I not lost everything as well too?" And I was like, I felt that in my soul.
Right,
Like,
right.
like, I mean, she got a point. Like, and even though I felt she was kind of overreacting, but like I understand her place from like wanting to strip her of her title because like you vouched for her, you said that she'd be okay, and first mission out she gets snatched by
Mhm.
underwater colony. So it's so much is going on there.
And I also like the mother daughter relationship we saw with her and Shuri too, how they kind of went from being, your typical, Shuri's a teenager and teenagers are like whatever with their moms. So she was definitely like that. And she definitely loved her older brother, T'Challa. He was her mentor and everything. So the part where Ramonda just, she dies and Shuri's like just cries for her mother broke my heart. Like it just
Hmm.
came out of nowhere. That's the one that really got me. That part,
Yeah, that
cuz
same for me as well too. Because
I
like
couldn't believe they killed her
because
off.
this because there's scenes before she was saving Riri. I'm like, okay, she'll be fine. She's just swimming up to the thing, and then they get back to her, and Namor is kind of staring over, and she's like, "Mourn your dead, and bury everyone." And I was just like, "Wait, she's not dead, is she?" And
Mhm.
literally when and that like helped with definitely with Azuri's development because
Yes.
that pretty much shattered everything around her where she had to build herself up and kind of put her in that rage because she definitely was still taking T'Challa's death
Mhm.
heavily because she couldn't figure out how to recreate the a synthetic herb to like try to save him and just the rush of emotions and everything. Like it's definitely an emotional movie and
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And it's just to the thing of how when she took the herb and she was transforming into the Black Panther, how she saw Killmonger and the way he was like, "You're just like me. You want vengeance. You want all this." I was expecting for her to meet T'Challa or her mom or even like her dad, but it was Killmonger.
That scene I did not see coming, and it I think now just reflecting on it, it made sense as to where she was as a person
Hmm.
and knowing how she was because she was the person who didn't believe in like any of the traditions of the tribe of Wakanda because she was against like mourning or burning the clothes you went to bury your stuff your loved ones in
Hmm.
and Killmonger had a point. It's like I said, I wanted vengeance too, and just the imagery around it because he was in the throne room, obviously, and then everything burning around down them, which kind of like to me was like a metaphor for like how everything was actually in the real world too,
Hmm.
even though they just had like I said, even though she just developed the herb. But I think that scene with her and Killmonger kind of put into perspective as to like how blind she was with rage given everything that had happened because at that point she literally lost everyone that knew her and that loved her
Because her and him
and
both took the herb to become Black Panther to avenge their loved ones. Whereas like
right,
T'Challa, he took it just because that was his rightful, like his
right, he was
crown.
next man up.
Yeah. And it was just really interesting to see this arc in Shuri, how she goes from being compassionate to these Tacoma people and Namor and just all that. Like she sees like what he's done for his people and how they live and appreciated that life to wanting to just she was just out for his blood, and then she just like changed because she's like, no, this is who I am, like I can't kill him, we are in the same boat. And it was like the tie-in to both their characters at the end was pretty great.
Mm,
I
definitely. And I also loved how Mbaku's character was kind of like a mentor to her, or like the big brother
Yes.
in T'Challa's absence. Because they did bring up where he mentioned that, was your brother, but I promised him that I would look out for you and offer you counsel. Because I guess he knew she needed it, and he definitely came through clutch in some moments in this movie, trying to talk some sense into her.
I loved how he had like this arc. How once T'Challa had passed away, he had kind of stepped down from this like, oh, I'm this big warrior. I'm gonna beat my chest all the time. He was like this more passive, like conscious to her. He's like, oh, you can't go kill T'Challa. You can't go kill Namor because it'll just bring war forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like two kingdoms will never get over it, and I appreciate that so much because he had been he was kind of a comedic character more,
Yeah.
and he
Mm-hmm.
kind of brought it down, and he did a great job.
Yeah. And you definitely felt T'Challa, his presence in this movie the whole time. Just in these characters, in Shuri, in Baku, and his mom, and just Nakaya, and just everyone that was affected by his death. They acted like they acted out in the name in his name of T'Challa, and just it was great, and it was just so
For
emotional.
sure.
I was literally, me and Mike, we were just very sad after the movie ended.
Yeah, like I think the first movie was like better as far as action wise, but this movie offered like a better story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially when the Queen Ramonda went to go get Lupita's character, and she explained like why she couldn't be there. And it's like, oh, you forget like how close her and T'Challa really were, and then obviously at the end of the movie we see how close they really were because didn't see that coming either. But yeah, it was good to I guess get the band back together essentially because everyone came back to fight for Wakanda, even though what Lupita was doing in Haiti was remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
She still had to come home and defend home and take care of home.
And it just goes to show that life does go on, and how they wrapped up the movie, especially in the end credit scene.
It was beautiful.
It was.
Like that's why I say like it was perfect for me. Like this is everything that it needed to be,
Mhm.
especially because like the kid like had like a similar smile
Mhm.
to his father. And it was like, huh, I wonder if they really like pulled his father, but nonetheless, well written movie, well shot movie. Like it
I'm
was perfect for me.
all about sibling love in movies, and I really love how like Shuri had her moment of mourning for her brother, and obviously that was such an emotional sequence. It was just like the silence of it with the montage of him. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. But then Nakaya comes out with her son, and it's just like, she's a part of the family. She's Shuri's sister in law, and now Shuri has a nephew, and it all tied in so beautifully at the end.
So
I definitely agree there.
do you think Marvel wants to take little T'Challa and make him the Black Panther, or do you think we'll see Shuri stick along?
That I'm not certain. I wouldn't be totally against it if that's the route they want to go. Obviously, that kid has some growing up to do, so I don't know how long we can hold off for a Black Panther movie.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't be mad if Zuri came back because I would love to see more of her development as the Black Panther, and she becomes like more rounded and better judgment as a Black Panther, much like her brother and her father before her, who held the mantle.
Oh yeah, because again, T'Challa was such a big example for her, and she was momentarily blinded with hate and vengeance, but now I feel like she'll most likely follow in his footsteps and maybe even improve upon where he maybe had some defects. Who knows?
So, Sam, you got anything else you'd like to discuss about this movie?
I I don't get M'Baku's hang up with trying to fight Namor because as soon as he got that smoke, he regretted it. He had to run up on the fish man as he called him, one punch right through everything. I was like, oh, I was kind of concerned then too because I didn't want him to die. Cause I'm like that punch seemed very lethal.
It was.
And I was like, please don't kill him.
I was like, man, that's like hitting a brick wall.
So like
Right.
everyone else in Wakanda has like these spears and like these high tech blasters and these flying suits of armors, and M'Baku's just like, I got this big stick. And I'm gonna beat you with his big stick. Like, come on, man.
And the whole battle too, in the middle of the ocean, how the Tacoma people are like launched into the air by killer whales and stuff. That is neat. I love killer whales.
That point to me too. I'm like, if anyone runs up on me like riding blue whales and killer whales, like, I have nothing for it. I don't know what you want me to. I got nothing against that. Like, it was just like that's like back to those underwater scenes. Like those were shot so beautiful, and that's a big ship they had too.
Yeah.
And the one local who chose to stay back and try to like take the ship out. Um, yeah, that took like some dedication, and even how Zuri and Riri figured out how to take out Namor, pretty much just to microwave him, was like this was the solution. But I'm like, it worked because I'm like, it actually when they figured out, I'm like, oh, that does make sense because he needs the water to kind of replenish himself and keep him out the water. We're fine.
I really liked the water bombs as well. They were just so visually fun, and so
It was.
and the way they were utilized is kind of like explosives, but then also as like terrain builders as well. Like how they changed the battlefield when they were used. Oh, I loved it so much.
So Black Panther opened this weekend already, racking up 175 to 185 mil. So do you guys think it could be one of the biggest movies of 2022?
For sure.
As an AMC stockholder, I sure hope so.
I'm definitely given everything surrounding it, given that this was like our chance to mourn Chadwick Boseman, the man, and T'Challa, the Black Panther character. Yeah, I don't see why it couldn't be one of the biggest movies of the year.
And just
I mean, Marvel always does big numbers anyway, but given everything surrounding this, for sure.
Just the silent Marvel opening logo at the beginning of the movie too with Chadwick. Oh man, that was
It. So I was saying,
so
like they had
somber.
us crying out the gate. I'm like, it's way too early to be crying and getting teary eyed on this movie, but.
So Sam, say in like 20 years, like, you know, you sit down with your kids or you sit down with your nephews and you go through all of the Marvel movies. Do you think that the kids sitting down, not having seen Black Panther in the theater and not knowing who Chadwick Boseman was, do you think them watching this movie, do you think it will connect with them emotionally as it did to us?
It probably won't. There probably need to be some backstory told along with this because given given everything surrounding Chadwick and the Black Panther character, like it's one of those where you have to be there in real time to kind of get the impact of it. So it'll definitely take some explaining to like what this meant to us and how like he passed away in real life fighting this disease silently, and they had to write that into the story because he was Black Panther, bar none.
Yeah, he was also
And
like Jackie Robinson. He was in that movie about the
James Brown
first
as well.
Black Supreme Court justice, I think.
Yep, and he was James Brown in his
Oh
biopic as
yeah.
well too. So he's been doing some big stuff for sure.
And it's just so admirable, and he's a big role model to everybody who, you know, just everything with what he stood for, and then how he just silently battled this disease without showing a trace that he was sick. It was just it's so astounding, and it was so shocking when he passed.
Yeah, like it definitely took everyone by surprise. Because like you said, he felt like all we saw was like some weight loss, and people were thinking like, hey, maybe it's for an upcoming role or something else. But we never thought like a illness was the reason behind it.
Yeah, when I saw he
Yeah,
passed, I thought it was COVID, and then I read it was, you know, this cancer, and I was like, oh my gosh, he was so young. And it just makes you stop and think, you know, tomorrow's not promised to you, and to also like just take care of yourself. So
couldn't agree more with,
yeah.
with you there, Amanda.
Well, you guys, let us know what you thought of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming on.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.